Sean Phillip, welcome to the podcast, mate.
Thank you, mate. Thank you for having me.
What's going on? What are you doing up in Sydney today?
Mate, good to be here. I'm here for an event tonight up in Quokkas Hill, which is our last prevention event for the year. So looking forward to getting out there. We're at a barbershop tonight with about 40 people from the community. So looking forward to getting out there and having some conversations.
Yeah, how often are you? Obviously, you're based in Melbourne. For the people that don't know, Sean is the part of the Shaka Project, which is a mental health organisation building awareness for just mental health around the country and around the world. How often are you up here or in another state doing things like that?
Yeah, we do. We're pretty fortunate, mate. So we get to sort of travel all corners of the country and do lead prevention workshops and work with communities. We are located in Torquay down in Victoria, so we do a lot of stuff locally around that sort of area, around the Geelong and Bellarine and Surf Coast, but a good 90% of our work is outside of Victoria, so up here in Sydney, up in Queensland. Western Australia is a really big state for us as well, obviously along with South Australia as well too. So we're very, very fortunate to be able to go around to as many places as we possibly can and reach different communities, because when you have this conversation around mental health, those different communities, different areas, it's always important to make sure you're targeting and you're getting to those smaller communities along with getting to the metro areas, Sydney, Melbourne, stuff like that too. Yeah. So all over the place.
Yeah, do you see like a difference in sort of the difference between the city areas and then the remote areas, or is it kind of similar, or just every area is completely different?
Oh, mate, it's hugely different. We've been to places that are 4-hour flight northeast of major cities and that are just towns of 500 people, and they've got a pub, they've got a footy club and a very, very small supermarket, and that's about it. So when you're speaking to those people, it's extremely different when you're speaking to someone from Metro Melbourne or Sydney or one of the capital cities, especially when it comes to mental health. We're in Sydney at the moment. I reckon it would probably take me 10 minutes to find a GP or a psychiatrist in the area. In towns like Tom Price or regional New South Wales, it could be a flight away to find a GP or to find a psychologist, a psychiatrist. So when we're speaking about mental health support services, the rural areas, the regional areas are really, really missing out. Obviously there's online services, but sometimes we need that face-to-face too. So when we go into these regional areas, it is a completely different conversation. They live a different life along with the support services. It's very, very lonely out in those spaces sometimes. Obviously the community's normally a lot closer than it would be sort of in the metro areas, which is really, really great. But yeah, it's most definitely different. Where if you sort of drive 20, 30, 40 kilometres out of any metro city, you're going to start to have different conversations with people out there too. So it's important to make sure you're moving around and having these different chats.
Yeah, how confronting is it going out there realising that, like you said before, if we walk down the road here where we are, we'd find heaps of psychiatrists, heaps of GPs, and seeing that they don't have those resources out in the country.
Yeah, it is. It's really, really hard. And I was at a place in Western Australia just this year, and even if they might have a baby, they have to fly into Perth and stay there for a week to be able to deliver the baby, because there's nowhere in their town that delivers babies. So it's just a different something that people living in Sydney or Melbourne or regional metro areas wouldn't really think about. If they're going through that process of having a child, they sort of normally, okay, this is the local hospital nearest by, we'll go there when it's time. But for these people, it's okay, we have to fly to Perth and get a hotel accommodation for this week, when we're thinking that this is going to happen, and hopefully it happens in that week, so we have to buy another hotel and all these different things too. And again, when it comes to mental health support, it can be a really real struggle. Another big thing with regional areas when it comes to mental health is just the conversation isn't as loud out there as it is in metro areas. There's that old stigma around, regional and farmers and things like that too, that we're still trying to get across. We're still trying to have those deep conversations, and it's going to take a little bit longer, but they're some of the most resilient people in Australia to be able to go through what they've experienced. We've got some farmers that have been through drought, and then the very next year been through a fire, and then the very next year been through flooding, and they've lost millions of dollars through natural disasters, along with trying to run a business and run farms and all the other stresses of life too. So it's a real passion of ours is to look after those regional areas.
Yeah, you just never know. Like, you could never know the feeling, especially being from the city. Just, I feel like especially farmers have that. They just get up every day, do the same thing over and over, no matter how many days of drought,
7
fires.
days a week. Yep.
Yeah, it's unreal. I spoke to you about it a bit before the interview, but the way I sort of not heard about you, but was really keen to get you on. You came out to one of my mates' footy clubs, and I spoke to him before, like this morning, before I came in, and he told me that your story is just insane. So I just want to touch on that a bit. So how did kind of you become passionate about mental health, and what was your life like growing up?
Yeah, okay. So, it's my mental health story started, I suppose, pretty young, and it started when my father sat myself and my brother down, and we were only young kids. I probably would have been about 11 or 12, and he sat us both down and he said, "Boys, I've got to talk to you. I've got to tell you something." And he told us about the fact that he was struggling. He told us that he was going through depression and mental health, and this is sort of something at the age of 11 or 12 that I obviously didn't have any idea what it was. I didn't know what mental health was. I didn't know what depression was. All these different things too. The only real illnesses I knew were, those big ones you hear about all the time. Cancer and heart attack and stroke and all these things too. And those were the only sort of illnesses that I really knew about. And sort of my brain would always go to the negative things when I hear about those things too. So when he started talking about this thing called depression and mental health, the completely ignorant 11-year-old boy just thought, "Oh, I've got no idea what this is. He's going to be fine. He'll be all right." And he told us that too. He said, it's going to be hard, and Dad is he's seeking help for it. He speaks to a doctor. He's on medication. All these different things too. And he's going to be okay. And he said that to us. And over the next few years, this depression, this mental health really took over our family, took over our life. My parents divorced about a year after that sort of conversation, and it became obviously really, really hard. Split family, 2 different homes, all those different things too that come with divorce. But the biggest thing was that we could see how much Dad was struggling with his mental health. And we could see the difference that was, the dad that I knew before was changing, and he was different. And, that really hurt myself and my older brother. We couldn't understand why he was different and why these things were happening. And every time we spoke about it, it was always, it always came back to Dad's depression. This is the depression that's making him like this, and that's making it harder for him, and all these different things too. So I really started to hate depression. I started to hate what mental health was, even though I really didn't know what it was, to be honest. I was still pretty young. But the fact was that we spoke about it all the time. It was always in conversation at home with Mum, with Dad, with other family members. And once I continued to talk about it, it really grew on me what this depression thing was, and I started to understand it as much as a 14, 15-year-old really can. But the impact that had was that when I got to the age of 16 and I started to experience my own mental health crisis and mental health, I was able to recognise it straight away. I was able to say, hey, this is what Dad's got. I've seen the signs, I've seen the mood swings, I've seen the lows and the highs and this and that, and I've seen the things that he's spoken to me about. This sounds exactly what he's experienced. And because I was able to recognise it, I was able to seek support pretty quick. And the really, really amazing thing about it, which I didn't realise until I was a little bit older, is that, you know, him giving me that ability and the access and I suppose the permission to talk about what I was experiencing, also gave me permission to say, hey, as a young man especially, it's actually okay to talk about what you're experiencing and what you're going through and how you're feeling. And I didn't know it at the time, but I didn't know that was an unusual thing. You know, I didn't know that we didn't speak, you know, all my mates didn't speak about mental health in their house and all that sort of stuff too. I didn't realise until, you know, I'd go to school and talk about it and I'd sort of get a few wry reactions from mates, that I thought maybe I'm pretty lucky because we actually talk about it and actually have those discussions too. So that was a really powerful part of my entire mental health journey is accepting that I've been really, really lucky to be given permission at a really early age to not only talk about what I'm experiencing, but also be told that I can go and seek support if I need to. And that's the hardest thing about this conversation is actually putting your foot forward and saying, I need help.
Yeah.
I was taught from a very young age that if you need help, put your hand up. And again, I didn't know it at the time, but that was hugely impactful. And that was really the start of my mental health journey. And I think that conversation I had with my father was something that saved my life then. It's saved my life many times since then as well. And it's a real passion of mine doing this work in the mental health space is to try and have those conversations with young people so that we can give permission to 15, 16, 14-year-olds, 10-year-olds, whatever it might be, that if they're ever having one of those days, that they can actually speak about it, especially obviously young boys and young men, that we're starting to create a world where men can speak about what they're going through, and they can seek support, and there's absolutely no shame in not being okay, and that we can have those conversations too. So that's a big motivator, and I suppose that's all come from that conversation when I was 12. Dad sitting me down and saying, "I need to tell you something." So that was really the spark.
Yeah. Did you ever ask why he? Because that would have been how many years ago would that have been?
That would have been, how old am I? 32. So what? 18? That's very bad maths, but probably 17, 18 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like 20-ish years ago, mental health wasn't spoken about, definitely not even close to as much as it is today.
Yep.
Did you ever ask him why he decided to have that conversation?
Yeah, no, I didn't. That's a good point. I haven't, but if I could say why, and, you know, I'm a father now as well, I think it was just his fatherly instinct, I think. I think he knew that it was affecting the family. I think he knew that it was going to probably affect the family, you know, into the future. So he wanted to be open and honest about it, and he's continued to do that. You know, he's still with us today, and he's continued to be that very open, honest father and an honest man, to the point where, you know, I can talk to him right now, and if he's having a bad day, he'll tell me straight up. And even when he does that, I just, you know, I pinch myself, because I know people that can't talk to their fathers about mental health. They just simply can't. They'll say, "How are you?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm good. Get on with it. Harden up. Keep going." And that's really hard. Not only for the person, but also for that dad, that he feels like he can't open up to his kids. So I pinch myself every day that I'm fortunate enough that I can actually still have those conversations 17 years on, about how I'm doing and also how he's doing as well.
Yeah, it's crazy how one like conversation can change everything, sort of. Like if you had those feelings when you were 15, 16 and you had no idea what they were and everything, it could have been completely different for you.
100%. Yeah. Look, I think if I went through what I went through, you know, in my early teens and even into my sort of early adult life, not knowing that I could speak about it, I honestly don't think I'd be here today. I was able to seek help from the age of 15 or 16. I was on medication from the age of 16 through to 25, and you know that really, really saved me, and just having the ability to know that I can openly talk about it. Even just talking about it to my mum and saying, hey, I'm thinking about upping dosage or changing my dosage of antidepressants or anti-anxiety medication. Just having the ability to do that. Once again, when I was having these conversations, I didn't realise how lucky I was to be able to actually have an open conversation about those things. And again, I'm very fortunate today that I'm still able to do that as a super old 32-year-old.
You just spoke about your struggles that you had with mental health. What inspired you then to kind of be so open about it that you're going to schools, going to footy teams, going to all different types of communities and sharing your story and trying to help others?
Yeah, I think just firstly that conversation with my dad, that I always say it was a bit of a gift that he gave me, and by going into sporting clubs, into schools, into work sites, if we can help one person get the courage to talk about what they're experiencing, then one conversation could save or change a life, and we've been able to get into a lot of workplaces and schools and sporting clubs over the last 6 years, and we've had some incredible conversations with people. I think a big inspiration for me personally is just I would love other people, especially young boys and men, to have the ability that I did when I was going through it. And that ability was that I knew that I could go and speak about it. It was still bloody hard, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that it was all easy breezy, and I've never sort of struggled to talk about it. It's been horrendously hard, but I've always had that thing in the back of my mind that I can speak about this, and unfortunately there's a lot of people in instances that they're experiencing at the moment that they just don't know how, or don't know who to, or don't know where to go. So if we can give them those tools to do that, to take a step, no matter how big that step is, then I think for me personally, and I know a lot of people in the Shaka Project, that's a win. Just to be able to do that for one person is pretty comforting. And I suppose just trying to change the conversation. And we have this saying with the Shaka Project, it's crush the stigma. And we all know about this stigma around mental health and around speaking about your feelings and all those different things too. And it's so broad. The stigma is so broad, from little things, from just talking to your mates about how you're feeling, and then things that include alcohol and drugs and all these sort of things that are in perspective when it comes to this conversation. We talk about alcohol and drugs when we lose men aged between 20 and 35. These two things plus gambling have a really big influence on ill mental health, and it would be honestly ridiculous if we didn't speak about it. And that's something that we're really passionate about, is obviously speaking about, hey, let's talk up, let's check in with your mates, but also let's have a conversation about how we can make our relationship with alcohol better. When we're around our mates, and our mate's sitting there and we can see that he's had way too many beers, let's not laugh at him, let's not have a crack, let's not videotape him, let's pick him up and make sure he's okay, make sure he's safe. And then in the morning you check in with him, because he's going to have an absolutely horrendous day in his own mind and with his own mental health. Having those conversations that, if you know that somebody in your life is struggling, and you're encouraging them to go out and get absolutely pissed, that you're probably not a good mate. And they're really uncomfortable conversations. There's been many times where I've said that to a group of footy players and said, you're a bunch of shit blokes if you're doing that, and they sort of look at me like, whoa, like, who's this dickhead? But it's uncomfortable, but we need to look at these conversations really seriously, because we're losing so many people to suicide. So many people, we're losing average 63 people every single week here in Australia. 44 of them are men. And, there's a lot of different reasons and things like that we can open up and go into. But if we start to look at the socio economic areas and reasons and all these different things too, and the factors, we can start to make those small shifts that can make a big difference too. So we're really passionate about tackling those things as well as just, hey, let's talk about mental health.
Obviously, you've gone out and started a big movement with the Shaka Project, and it's insane. But how do you think people as individuals, just in their day-to-day lives, can help others and help themselves in terms of mental health?
I think the biggest thing I say to sort of, people that are wanting to sort of just do the little things is literally just do that, just do the little things. And I think something that we all need to remember, and this is myself as well, this is, nobody is an angel, nobody's perfect, but I think one thing we all need to remember is that life is a first for absolutely everyone. No one has ever clocked life. No one's got a handbook on how to make life absolutely perfect from day one to day end. It's the first time for everyone. So we're always everyone's going to cock it up somehow. Everyone's going to say the wrong thing, do the wrong thing. Everyone's going to make mistakes. And, if we can just remember that everyone's just doing their absolute best. And if we can try and do those little things like, reminding the people that we love just how much we love them, by creating safe environments for people, by creating, some sort of empathy and understanding for people that may be in a different world, I suppose, to us, then we can make a real difference when it comes to suicide. The biggest thing that we're starting to learn and see out of research in the last 5 years around suicide is the lack of community. Lack of community for people is absolutely massive. And community doesn't have to be 100 people. You don't have to have 100 mates, but there's a lot of people out there that don't have one friend. A lot of people out there that are suffering through, through addiction, through trauma, through grief, through diagnosed or undiagnosed trauma, mental health, PTSD, whatever it might be. And if we can remember that we don't know what somebody else is experiencing, and remembering that this is everyone's first go, then maybe we can start to show some empathy and understanding and help the fellow person next to us and have those conversations. And again, build a bit of a community around looking after one another.
Yeah, it's weird because obviously social media is such a huge thing now, and there's so many communities and things like that on social media, but I feel like as people it's almost more disconnected than ever.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that it's good. I reckon it's good that social media bans come in, so especially as kids growing up can just go and hang out with their mates and stuff like that. How do you think we as a whole country can build community in real life?
Yeah, look, it's a really, really tough question, and I think if we look at it as a whole, there's got to be a million answers to it. But I think a really important thing, especially when we're speaking about mental health and mental health communities, is again just to do the little things, and that might be just breaking the ice with one of your friends or one of your family members. And we talk about this a lot within our prevention workshops, is breaking the ice with somebody in your life. And what that means is essentially, yourself and myself might have been best mates for 15 years. We played sport together, we went to school together, done some work together, but we never really sat down and spoke about mental health. We love each other, we're good mates, all that sort of stuff too, but we've never really broken the ice when it comes to, hey, if you're ever struggling, I'm actually going to be here to listen, and I'm going to be open to helping and doing what I need to do to get you through whatever you're experiencing. And that's that's a pretty common thing with a lot of relationships. It might be friends, it could be family members, it could be husband, wife, partners, whatever it might be. But a lot of people are extremely close, but they haven't had that really, really important conversation around mental health. And we encourage it a lot. We encourage you to go and have one conversation with one people. You don't have to do it with 100 people, but just one person in your life. And the reason we do that is because when you're going through something really, really tough, and we've seen this a lot, is that a lot of people feel completely alone when they're experiencing it. And if they can just know that they've got one person, it is hugely powerful. Just knowing that they've got one person that has got their back. And again, they don't need an army, they just need the one person. So that feels really, really good. It also feels really good to be that one person for somebody as well. You know, I've got people, I'm extremely fortunate. I've got multiple people that I can call up right now in tears and say, mate, I'm not doing okay. And we can just chat, we can just talk. And a lot of people don't have that. There's a lot of people that just feel completely alone and don't have anyone to speak to about. So if you want to make a difference, have a think about someone in your life, about how can I be that person for that person. And maybe even encourage them, hey, now you go and reach out to someone else and be that person for someone else too. And if we can do that, if we can start to create some relationships where, you know, we can still be mates, we can still have a beer together, we can still talk crap and all that sort of stuff that mates do, but when we know it's time to get serious about the conversation, we sit down and we talk about it. So I think that's a thing that we can all do.
Yeah. How do you deal with yourself if you're having a bad day, things just aren't going right, you're not feeling great mentally? How do you deal with it now?
Yeah, I've got a few things. You know, I love listening to podcasts and music and things like that too. Within my own sort of personal life, I'm a dad, so anything with my daughter, I'm extremely, you know, it certainly does help. So whether it's just going to the playground with her, kicking the footy with her, or just sitting there and talking to her about what's going on, that's something that I really enjoy and helps me. But also, you know, our social media is something that we're really passionate about, and that's been amazing for me as well too, because, you know, I inadvertently sort of, it's a little bit of my psychologist, that I'm able to jump on there and post things. And, you know, we might get 25 likes, we might get 250 likes or 1,000 likes. But when people sort of appreciate a post or comment or whatever it is like that, it sort of makes me feel validated, and that's a really big thing. And, you know, I might be having a really, really shitty day, and then we still see people supporting our message, and it makes it just bumps you up a little bit. But, you know, positive mental health practices are super important, whether it's going to the gym or reading a book or whatever it might be, just to get those little things in life that you need for yourself.
Yeah, I love the posts you boys do, like just the quotes.
Yes.
Just like, it's nothing fancy really, just simple white writing with a black background, but
Yep.
it's just sometimes just what you need.
Yeah, and that's exactly why we do it. It's just we try and keep it authentic as we possibly can, and you know, we don't mind swearing in it and being a little bit not vulgar, but a little bit straight to the point, I suppose. Because again, this conversation, we can't you know, pussyfoot around the conversation. We've got to have it. We've got to be real with it, and we've got to let people know that, you know, they do fucking matter, which is one of our most popular posts. Whenever we post it, it goes off. And it has to be real. It has to be something that people see and evokes emotion. And that hopefully that emotion is, okay, yeah, I do. Now, what do I need to do to be able to get through what I'm experiencing at the moment?
Yeah, when did you realise the Shaka Project, like, oh, fuck, we actually are making a difference and people are connecting with our message?
I think it's kind of hard to measure. I'm an extremely humble person when it comes to Shaka, but the things that make us, you know, feel really good is people that we meet at events and or out in the public, and they're like, oh, I love this post, or this post is the background on my phone, or you know, there's about 15, 20 people around Australia with Shaka tattoos, and
Oh, wow.
I just think that's awesome. And I've got tattoos everywhere. I don't even have a Shaka tattoo, so everyone's been bugging me for that for years. But little things like that is really cool. Probably the coolest story and the most impactful one that I've heard is we're at an event in sort of southwestern Victoria a few months ago, and this lady came up to me and she said, hey, we love your we love all your posts, and they're really, really powerful. And we make sure that we do a lot of posting around Sunday. Unfortunately, Sunday is a very prominent day that we lose people to suicide, so we make sure that we're posting around those days. And she told me that every Sunday, her and her two sons, they sit there and they go through the week's posts and they pick out their favourite. They print it out and they put it on the fridge for that week.
Wow.
And they change it over every Sunday. And also while they're doing that, they check in with a few friends on the Sunday. And I just thought that was just phenomenal. Like, that was just incredible. And she said, oh, we've been doing it about 7 months. And, you know, there's been days I've been sitting there on a Sunday and just thinking, fuck, you know, this is so hard. You know, you have that self-doubt with everything you do. You're like, oh, do I even need to post? I won't bother posting today, all that sort of stuff too. And then you remember things like that. You think, okay, maybe this can help somebody, or this can reach somebody who just needs to hear something like this today too. So little things like that are hugely impactful.
Yeah. Do you showing up for other people in that way sort of help you show up for yourself as well? Because obviously if you're thinking, oh, I can't be bothered to do this, all that sort of stuff, you're probably not exactly struggling, but just not in a 100% great headspace. Does that help you get out of that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've always said to people, you know, I've done all of our posts over the last 6 years, and I've always said to, you know, close friends or ambassadors and stuff like that too, that if there's 2 or 3 days without posting, it means I'm having a pretty shitty week. Like, me myself I'm struggling, and you know, the reason I do that is simply because, you know, I want to keep it authentic as we possibly can. And there hasn't been many days, but there has been days over the last 6 years where I'm just like, I can't post. You know, even yesterday I didn't post anything yesterday. You know, after what happened in Bondi this weekend, I had nothing. You know, and there's been many days over the last couple of years where it's really hard to find something to say when I'm having a shitty time. But I know that sometimes when I have posted and people have, you know, got around it and shown that this is what they needed, it absolutely does, certainly does help with what I might be experiencing at the time.
I wanted to touch on the workshops a bit. From all that I've heard, they're crazy and insane, so good. What actually goes into creating them?
So a lot of lived experience. So all our facilitators, the biggest thing I've sort of spoken about a little bit is authenticity and realness when it comes to this conversation. So lived experience is a really, really big factor. So we do a lot of sporting clubs. I've sort of grown up in sporting clubs down in Victoria, and when you're speaking about mental health and suicide prevention, you have to be authentic to where you are. If I had never been part of a sporting club, I probably would have been the wrong person to present in front of a sporting club. I've never been someone that is in that sort of teacher sort of realm or anything like that too. So me presenting to you know, grade 6 students, I'd be able to do it, but it's a bit of a different lived experience of people that are in that area too. So it's that's the biggest thing is lived experience and authenticity. You know, getting in there and getting straight to the point when it comes to this message. As I said before, it's a message we just need to talk about and not pussyfoot around the conversation. And we found that over the last 6 years, when we do that, it allows people in the audience to feel a lot more comfortable about what is a really uncomfortable conversation. If I rocked up to a footy club in a suit and said, right, we're going to talk about mental health, you know, I don't know if you've been part of a sporting club, but they probably would have just laughed me out of the building and said, who is this flog? You know, we rock up in shorts and t-shirt and normally a backwards hat, and you're just like, righto, let's fucking talk about mental health. Let's have a chat about it. We talk about alcohol and drugs and all these different things too, not in a way of, righto, stop drinking, stop going out, stop enjoying yourselves. It's, righto, guys, how can we make this a better relationship with alcohol, with these different things too, So we're looking after people's mental health and our own mental health too. And we find that's extremely responsive with everyone we speak to. It's because we're not going in there and telling them that everyone needs to do better. We're going in there and saying, right, what can we all do? How can we make a difference when it comes to people in our lives, what they're experiencing, what they're going through, but also how can we make sure that the club or the work site or wherever we're presenting to is a safer environment for the people that are in it. And it comes back to what we spoke about at the start, the regional and metro and all that sort of stuff too. Everywhere we present is going to be completely different. You go to a sporting club in regional New South Wales, and majority of the people in that sporting club have been there for 15 years, and they've got their dad played, their mum plays netball there, their grandma's in the canteen, their kids are running around in junior footy or junior netball. It's a family environment, and it's a huge community. So when we go out there, our biggest thing is, right, we are already a community. We don't have to build a community. You've already got one. How can we make it safer for everyone in the community? Because we all love each other. We all want everyone to stick around. And then you might go to a workplace, a corporate site, and not all, but a lot of corporate sites are hugely focused on let's make an absolute dickload of money, which is, you've got to live. But we go into those areas like, okay, that's great. It's good to make sales. It's good to hit your KPIs, all that sort of stuff too. But what are we doing to look after ourselves? Because at the end of the day, if you hit those KPIs, if you hit those sales, and you yourself are destroying yourself in the meantime, then what's it all worth? What are we actually doing it for? So the different conversations that we go into in the different areas, they're always changing. They're always adapting, because it has to be specific to the people we're speaking to. We spoke to a retirement village, when was it? Started last year. And, if we went in there and spoke about alcohol and drugs, the alcohol, they might have a drink every now and then too, but there's a good percentage of, a good chance, that, 85-year-olds aren't doing party drugs on the weekend. So that's just a null and void conversation. So that's a extreme example, but when you're having these conversations, it has to be specific to who you're speaking to. We've spoken to rooms of First Nations kids, and we've spoken to rooms of kids that have been in juvenile detention centres and in and out of jail and different things like that too. So the conversation is always shifting. The conversation is always trying to be authentic to who we're speaking to and where we are. Mine sites, these miners over in WA, they've got big bank accounts, big pay, all that sort of stuff too, but they've got fucking hard lives. They've got really tough lives, and a lot of the country look at them as like, there's no way you can complain about your life. You're earning 300-400K a year. You work for 2 weeks and have your week off. You've got the best life in the world. But for an entire week, they're without their kids, without their family. They're normally working long shifts. They're normally in horrendous environments and all these different things too that not a lot of people think about too. So it's being authentic is the most important thing when we're working on these workshops.
Have you ever had any workshops where you've just left and been like, holy shit, like that was crazy, like the energy in the room or the response from the community?
Yeah, plenty. Yeah, that's the best thing about it is walking away and it's almost a bit of a therapy session for myself sometimes. Going in there and having a yarn and talking through different things. But there's been so many times where we've walked away and we just thought that's really awesome and it's really inspirational to see some communities and just how much they get behind it. We've had sporting clubs where we walk in and it sort of seems a bit disconnected, and then by the end of it, everyone's hugging each other and everyone's telling them how much they love each other and all these different things too. We've done plenty of youth groups which have been able to give us ideas of how we can help the youth better. And, we've walked away like, holy crap, we've just learnt so much off a 15-year-old kid. And it's little things like that you walk away and like, right, this is, there are so many people out there that want to make a huge difference. So many people out there that want to have this conversation. And there is just the biggest thing is giving them permission to have that conversation too. And we find that, you know, sometimes we go into sporting clubs and you can really tell the people that are like, oh, here we go, we've got another mental health chat and it's just going to be a PowerPoint on this and that and all that rubbish. And then you sort of see as we go through them just sort of slowly shifting, and then they're the first person to come up to you and say, hey, that was awesome. You know, that's what we really needed, or that's what I really needed too. So that's a really good feeling.
Yeah. When were you like, okay, I'm going to start this thing, and the Shaka Project kind of went into motion? When did that happen?
So it was back in 2019. So it was January 2019, and it was first started just as a merchandise brand. So we obviously, it was all about mental health still, but we wanted to sell the t-shirts as a bit of mission slip for people to talk about mental health. So we thought I had this idea that, hey, if you're wearing a t-shirt with the Shaka logo on it, it's sort of like a massive permission slip to say, hey, I have care and empathy and understanding for mental health. And if you need to speak to me, you can come up and speak to me. And that was the whole point of it. It was a conversation starter. And I remember the first night we launched it on Facebook. And this was almost 7 years ago now. And, you know, things didn't really go viral per se on Facebook and all that sort of stuff too. But we got, you know, thousands of shares within 24 hours. We sold out all of our merchandise within probably 6 or 7 hours. And, you know, this was something that I thought was going to be local. You thought it was just going to be a few family and friends get around.
Yeah.
And then I always tell this story. We got orders from like Sydney and New South Wales and all this sort of stuff too. And I was like, how the fuck do I send a t-shirt to New South Wales? Like I did no backing research whatsoever.
Yeah.
I just set up this thing thinking there's going to be people in my local area buy it, and I'll just go drop it off to them or whatever it is. And then we just had to really quickly learn how to do everything, and learn how to send stuff and order stuff and mail stuff. And it was absolutely crazy. And that really showed me that there is a real need for this conversation, and people want to have the conversation. We just have to give them the tools and the ability to keep having the conversation too. So that's where the idea sort of started, and then it just continuously grew from there.
Yeah. Do you remember your first workshop?
I do. Yeah, absolutely. It was in Adelaide.
Yeah.
It was to about 30, 40 what are they called? Traffic controllers. And it was absolutely daunting, but I remember getting off the stage thinking, I reckon I could do that 1 or 2 more times, and I've done it about 600 times since. So it was terrifying. It was really tough, and I think it's come a long way since then. It's changed a lot. It's adapted a lot. We've added things. We've taken away things. But it's something that we're extremely passionate about, and just being able to get into communities and be part of that community, even if it's just for an hour, and meet so many amazing people. Unfortunately, we've heard some incredibly sad stories as well, but just being able to be in people's communities and have these conversations has been a lifelong privilege.
Yeah. Do they reach out to you, or do you go to them? Obviously, to start with, did you go to them? But now,
well, we've been really fortunate that the majority of them have come to us. So, so special, sporting clubs. Every year we have named to deliver free sporting club prevention workshops all over Australia, and we do a post or 2 posts at the start of the year, and we just get influxed with sporting clubs from all over Australia, and we've done 102 sporting clubs this year. Our goal was to get 100 by the end of next year. We were able to do it in a year, which was pretty cool. Yeah. And that's our that's our major passion is getting into sporting environments, and getting into work sites and having these really, really tough conversations. But no, a lot of them reach out to us. A lot of them are recommended through people that we speak to, and other clubs and other work sites. And some people, we've presented to 500 people at once, and we've presented to 3 people at once. So we'll go anywhere to anyone.
Just before we finish up, I just wanted to ask you, what's like one message, or not one message, what's a message that you'd give to someone that might be listening that might be struggling day to day?
Yeah, I think this is something that we always finish off with in our workshops, and it's something that I think every single one of us, myself included, has to remind ourselves of as much as we possibly can. I think we are our own worst enemy when it comes to everything in life. We're always doubting ourselves. We're always, second guessing ourselves, telling ourselves we're not good enough, telling ourselves we should be doing better, we're not where we should be, all that sort of stuff too. Everyone has the same or similar thoughts. And I think if we continue to remind ourselves that, again, as I said before, this is the first time anyone's ever done this, including ourselves. We're going to cock it up. We're going to stuff it up from time to time. But remembering that no matter who you are, no matter what position you're in, whether it be how old you are financially, success, in brackets, I hate the word success, but wherever you are at the moment, whatever mistakes you've made, the one thing that never changes is the fact that you matter. That never changes, never will, never has changed. It will stay the same. It will stay constant throughout your whole life. And we all make mistakes. We all do things that we wish we didn't do. We all will fail. We'll all do things that will have negative impact on our life and other people's lives and all those different things too. But the one thing that never changes is the fact that you absolutely matter, no matter what too. So if you can remind yourself of that and give yourself a bit of a break, because again, life isn't all sunshine and roses, and it can be tough, and it's okay to have those shitty days. And that's that one thing that will never ever change is your worth. So that's probably the one thing that we would that I would encourage people to think about as much as they possibly can.
Yeah, well, Sean, you're a legend. Everything that you're doing and everyone at the Shaka Project is doing is inspiring, especially being a young man myself. Our community definitely needs that. So good mental health's being spoken about more. So many different organisations all working together. So thank you for jumping on. It's been great. Thank you.
Thank you, mate. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thanks, brother.